Reddit's dark side covers sensitive topics and could be a possible trigger for some. These stories are narrated exactly how they are written by the original poster. Viewer discretion advised.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Reddit's Dark Side. Happy New Year's. It's 2023 now, and I look forward to continuing this show for another year for you guys. If you come back episode after episode and enjoy this show as much as I enjoy making it for you, I just ask that you guys leave a positive review. It really helps the channel grow. As well as leaving a positive review on Spotify, you can also win a $50 Amazon gift card that I am personally giving away by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. The winner will be announced January 25th. Now, let's get into the show. I don't know if I'm being paranoid, but I think someone has been watching my family at night. I'll try to be as brief as possible and stick to the relevant events that are giving me this feeling. But the latest event happened last night and I didn't get much sleep, so apologies if I ramble or am unclear. My wife and I recently purchased our first home after the birth of our daughter. Everything was as you would expect the first few months. Painting, decorating, renovating, basking in our newfound slice of the American dream. You get the idea. Unusual things started happening several months ago. One day I was getting home after work. I passed by a strange truck 2 or 3 doors down from ours. I say strange for a few reasons. We know literally everyone in our small neighborhood, and I'd never seen this person before. There's no reason for through traffic to come down our street, and the truck was driving very slowly. Like, put it in drive but don't press on the gas. Slowly. As I pulled in the driveway, the truck flipped a U-turn and came back down towards my house. Getting out of my car, the truck crawled by and the driver stared daggers at me as he passed, then sped off. I don't like to judge based on appearances, and I like to think I don't scare easily, but something about this guy's eyes gave me a bad feeling. Obviously, this was weird. I mentioned what happened to my wife, telling her we should be more mindful about security. When I told her the type of truck, my wife said, "That same truck drove by and the guy stared at me when I got home this afternoon." I thought he was just being creepy and checking me out. I tried to tease her a bit to lighten the mood, calling her cocky for assuming a guy driving by was checking her out. I didn't want to freak her out, but I was definitely freaked out. We saw the truck a few more times over the next couple of weeks, either driving by slowly or parked down the block and facing our yard. But one day, the truck stopped driving by, and we haven't seen it since. I sort of dismissed the whole thing as me being paranoid. Then, other things started happening. In the past month or so, my wife and I have been hearing tapping on the windows at the front of our house at night. It's happened 2 or 3 times to each of us separately, always around 10 or 11 p.m., and always a soft but distant tap, 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 tap. It sounds like knocking with a single knuckle on the metal part of a screen door, if that makes sense. The first time that my wife and I heard the tapping together was last weekend. We were in the front room playing with our daughter around 9:30, just about to settle her down for bed. Our front room has a large, almost floor-to-ceiling window running the length of the wall next to the front door, which faces the street. We were all sitting on the floor with our backs to the window, reading our daughter a book, when we heard it tap, tap, tap. Now, our house is older. Cracks and creaks are not uncommon, but the sound was so distinctly intentional that my wife and I immediately looked at each other and bolted up out of the room. I had my wife and daughter lock themselves in the back room while I turned on all the lights and did a sweep around the outside of the house. Of course, I didn't see anything and was ready to dismiss the whole thing as more paranoia over something that probably had an innocent explanation. Until last night, around 9:45, we heard our daughter making noises in the baby monitor. I waited a few minutes to see if she would settle down, but when it became clear she wouldn't, I got up to put her back to sleep. The layout of the room is important to visualize this next part. This room is on the side of the house, but the exterior wall juts out a bit in an L shape. and the corner of this L is made up of windows. If you're standing in the door to the room, you're directly across from these windows in one corner, and there's a rocking chair in the other corner pointed towards the front of the house. One window faces the street, the other faces our neighbor's house. A garden bed planted with small shrubs wraps around the outside of the house directly underneath. I was sitting in the chair getting my daughter settled down. I had a lamp on so the room was softly lit. Once she fell asleep, I stood up to put her in her crib when something caught my eye. There was a figure standing about a foot away from the window in the bare space between the shrubs and the house. They were staring at us. I didn't look long enough to see anything more than what appeared to be a man in a light gray hoodie standing a few feet away from the other side of the glass. Sprinting from the room, I brought my daughter back to my wife and I's bedroom, leaving her there while telling my understandably confused wife to lock the door. After turning off all the lights inside the house and turning on all the lights outside, I began moving from room to room, peering out the windows into the darkness. I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. Whoever it was must have taken off after seeing me notice them and made a quick exit. Obviously, I had some trouble sleeping after this. I spent hours checking security cameras and going from room to room, looking out windows into the night, hoping but also not hoping that I would see anything that could explain what happened. This morning, I went outside to the spot where the figure would have been standing. I hoped maybe there was a plan or something that I mistook for a person. When I got to the spot, I realized the figure had been standing exactly in a bare patch of ground about 2 feet in diameter, directly in front of that window. Part of me is still hoping that I'm being paranoid. The mind can play tricks on you in the dark, seeing things that aren't there, especially when you are a sleep-deprived new parent. But with everything that's been happening, I can't shake that feeling that there was actually someone out there last night watching us. Please let me be wrong. Update: nothing happened last night. I expected that would be the case for a couple reasons. First, so far all of these events have taken place a week or two apart. The tapping this weekend and seeing the figure 2 nights ago were the closest in time of any of them. Second, this person absolutely realized I saw them, so I wouldn't expect them to be so bold as to come back the very next night. I still stayed up and kept an eye out though, to address some of the common questions, comments, and advice. We own several guns. I am well versed in gun safety and a pretty good shot if I'm going to brag on about myself. Since we have a young child, I've kept all weapons locked away. But after this past week, I've made sure to find places to store guns that are out of her reach, but within my reach for quick access. There are blinds, curtains, and solar screens on all our windows. The windows in the story is dark and the curtains were drawn over it that night. They're those semi-see-through white ones, so I didn't notice the blinds weren't drawn. All windows are checked and covered as soon as I get home from now on. All our exterior doors are dead-bolted and the frames are reinforced. These were security measures put in by the previous owner that I thought were unnecessary, but am now grateful for. Anybody tries to kick their way in, the door will hold long enough for me to get ready for them. I have purchased and installed additional exterior cameras with motion-activated lights. I'm looking into buying additional motion-activated floodlights for the more remote corners of our property. Lots of people have mentioned getting a dog. While I love dogs, we have a pretty full house animal-wise right now, and I wouldn't feel good about taking in another animal that I wasn't sure we could give sufficient attention to. Our neighbors have 2 very alert dogs that are out all night, and they have been barking more often after dark the past few weeks, which is another reason we've been on edge. As for who this person might be, I don't think it's related to the previous owners. They were a married couple with no children who lived there for over 30 years. The husband died and the wife needed to downsize, which is why she sold the house. Maybe it's someone who lost out on their bid for the place, but there was so much time between us buying the house and all this starting, it seems unlikely. Several people made note that I said I was a lawyer and asked if it could be related to that. My practice is focused on probate and estate planning, and the vast majority of my cases / clients do not involve any continuous issues / drama. Obviously, there have been some cases that get heated, but I can't think of anyone that would want to come after me specifically based on any of them. I took some pictures of the place where the person would have been standing and the view they would have had inside the house. It got me spooked all over again for sure. If I make a separate update post in the future, I'll consider including them. Thanks to everyone for the time to read and provide advice. If anything, I feel much more prepared to keep my family safe should this person come back. If anything happens, I'll update with a separate post in the future. Thank you for listening to another episode of Reddit's Dark Side. Make sure to hit the alert button so you can be notified when an episode is released, Monday to Friday.